Hi everyone, this is Pearl and welcome to my channel. I am working on Project Life year 2025, week 5, and for this I am using the 2024 Studio Calico kit. Now they don't do the documenting kit anymore or the Project Life kit, but I did purchase them and I am using the one for this month from 2024. You just saw that I had a bunch of labels that I had printed out. They were print and cut from the Studio Calico kit when I had purchased them. Unfortunately, I made a huge mistake and didn't realize that they were taking all their digital files off their website, and I did not get a chance to download any of my digital files. I'm so sad. For week 5 of the 2025 Project Life, I am documenting the week of 05. On this photo, I am just documenting that I am so excited that I will be able to watch my son's varsity game. Now, my daughter dances and that usually takes a lot of time, but we decreased the number of dance classes that she attends and the number of dances she competes in just so I could watch my son's games since he is a senior and this will be his last year playing soccer. This is a week also that my cousin from Korea was visiting with her daughter and her daughter's 2 kids. It's crazy to think that they're calling me grandma in Korean. I did use a tiny attacher to attach the label, and I like to use that as a little bit of a contrast. I also did cut out all of the little embellishments from that kit, and I do use my Kokuyo roller dot adhesive. That is my favorite adhesive. I do have it on Amazon Subscribe and Save. Any of the products that I have mentioned or used in this video, I will have linked down below. You'll see here that I have put a post-it note over the photo, and this is for privacy reasons because it is not my family member. And I am just going to be documenting about how my cousins were watching my son's varsity game, and I had turned my head to talk to my cousin. I was interpreting for both my family who don't speak Korean and my family from Korea who don't speak that much English, so I was doing a lot of translating. Anyway, during the soccer game, while I had my head turned, something must have happened on the field because everyone was around this one kid who was on the floor. Come to find out later that he is one of my son's really good friends and I know his mom really well. All I'm documenting here is what happened on the field and how he ended up having to take an ambulance to the hospital, and I rode with him. So that's what I'm writing about here. And I am going to be using one of those Simple Stories snap flap things. I can't remember exactly what they're called, but I will have that linked down below as well. And that's what I do when I have to use, or don't have to use, but I'm using an extra photo that doesn't fit on this, what is this called? The page B or style B page protector for Project Life. So I am writing about that. I am using a Pentel Energel pen, which is one of my favorites to write with, other than a fountain pen. So I will have that linked down below as well. I do use the Tonic 6-inch paper trimmer, and it's so convenient because it's small enough that I can have on my desk while I'm doing my Project Life because it is only 6 inches. And psst, I do have all 3 of his paper trimmers. Okay, so I have a bunch of alphas from Studio Calico. When they were phasing out their scrapbooking supplies, I did buy a bunch of them just so that I could have multiple flat stickers that I could use in my Project Life album. And I'm just going to go fast through this part. I'm just putting on my Tim Holtz ruler, player down. Now I'm using those reverse tweezers, and I like to use that because my fingers are so chubby. I have sausage fingers that I need that to get the alpha straight. Now you may be wondering why I am putting them on the ruler before I put them down on the photo, and it's because I like to place them exactly where I need to place them. But see, once I decide I'm going to put it on the top left of this photo, I didn't have to really do that because I could place it, you know, pretty straight without putting it on the ruler first. But it's just become a habit. I am using a Felicity Jane date stamp and Memento ink in Tuxedo Black. And I like the Memento inks because it does work on photo paper. Oh, there's a snap flap that I'm talking about. Okay, so back to Memento. I like to use that because it does stay on photos and I can clean it with a stamp chamois. Now, stays on also works, but you have to use a special cleaner for that. So it's just not as effective. So the only time I use StazOn is usually when I'm using white. So I'm documenting about that and how I had to call his mom, and his mom met me at the hospital because she was working. I did forget to mention that I do have a 12 by 12 white cardstock there that I use instead of page protectors when I'm initially working on my page. And I do that because I don't want to be putting things in and out of the pockets as I am working on the page. So here's a picture of my dad and my cousin. They basically grew up more like siblings than uncle and niece. They're close to the same age. Yes, that's why my cousin's daughter's kids call me grandma. Okay, so while they were here in America, I asked them what they wanted to do while they were in San Diego. I had already seen them in Korea the year before, so they were very familiar with me. They decided they didn't want to go to SeaWorld or Legoland, so I just took them to La Jolla Shores to show them the seals. And then I also took them down to Coronado, just some of the big sites, because at Coronado, the Hotel Del is there, and that is a place that shows up in movies and whatnot. Again, I like to use the labels from the print and cut that I did to document a little bit just on the photo itself. And I do adhere that down with the roller dot adhesive before I staple it. And I just staple it just to add a little bit of dimension and texture. The way I look at scrapbook pages is by Braille. Isn't that funny? Especially my 12 by 12 pages, which I haven't done recently. Anyway, here I'm struggling with the placement of the label. I like to have the label go off the page, and so that's why you always see me using those tiny scissors from Tim Holtz to cut off the edge and then stapling it with the tiny attacher. Now the tiny attacher that I use is one that uses staple number 10. I bought it at a scrapbook store here in San Diego decades ago, and it still works, but it is exactly the same as a tiny attacher. Okay, I did use a whiteout, and that is the whiteout from Kokyo Campus, and it is not quite white. It's a little bit off, so I like to use that when I am documenting, especially in my Hobonichi cousin. Here's a picture of me looking through one of the caves out into the ocean. Okay, I'm going back to my 4x6 papers, and I like to use these, especially the parts without too much of a pattern, to do my journaling. And I usually do a lot of journaling. Now, people ask me why I do so much journaling, and it's because my memory is so bad. Now with menopause, it's gotten even worse. I tell my kids they can tell me anything they want, just watch their tone. So they say, respectfully, Amma, we think you're getting dumber, which is so true. I hope the memory comes back when this phase of my life is over. Thank goodness the hot flashes are gone. Okay, so here's just a picture of me and my cousin. She's the one that's close to my dad's age. And even though I may not see her for years at a time, we just fall right back into the closeness like we had just seen each other yesterday. And I love her for that. So I'm documenting about that as well. One thing I do like to do is put the date stamp on every single picture. I know that's weird, but it's a habit I started back in 2011 when I first started Project Life. So it's something that I've just kept on doing. And all of my Project Life has been in 12 by 12 albums using the Style B, I think it's called, page protectors. And that just makes it so that I don't have decision fatigue. So I'm showing you the left-hand side of that page, and I'm moving on to the right-hand side. Here's where the pictures are of when we went to Hotel Del. And I also took them here to Bronx Pizza, which is the best pizza in San Diego. It is a New York style pizza, and I wanted them to have pizza from America. Now, pizza in Korea tastes different, even from brands like Domino's or Little Caesars in Korea, they do taste different. So I did want them to have a taste of what real American New York style pizza tastes like. Okay, again here I'm putting the letters onto the Tim Holtz ruler with those reverse tweezers, and I do this because I want to put Bronx Pizza in the center of the photo. You'll see here that it does take me a while. I do end up placing it on the bottom of my photo, and I guess I could have counted the letters, and I will get smarter about that. Now I want to write Hotel Del Coronado here on this photo, and then I realize that I don't have enough of the black alphas even with all of the duplicates that I purchased. So I end up using a different color sticker to put Hotel Del down. Isn't it beautiful? That's one of the most beautiful beaches in San Diego, just because there's a large stretch of sand before you get to the beach. You can see here that I am looking through all the alphas I purchased while they were on clearance when Studio Calico was deciding not to do any scrapbooking products anymore. I end up using the peach tone color or beige tone color for the Hotel Del sign. Now remember, while we were here, we had just picked up my son and daughter, my littles, my youngest, because I do have 4 kids, from school, and then took them with us to Hotel Del Coronado. Now my kids do not speak a lick of Korean, and my grandkids, I guess, or my cousin's kids, I should say, only understand a little bit of English because they all have to start learning English once they start first grade. I like to use a T ruler just to make sure that my letters are straight. Okay, I looked through some of the 3x4 cards because I decided I want to change the card after my initial placement of looking through the card when I am first starting to plan my pages. And I decided to use that yellow one that says love is. And then I use my black letter stickers and see if I have enough to spell out family. Then I'm going to use the 3x4 card that's right there on the left with the peach colored lines to do my journaling about what we did while we were there in Coronado. Next, I'm going to talk about how my son and my cousin's daughter's kids, even though they don't really communicate in the same language, they can hang out together. Here they're playing basketball with a little net that's on the bathroom door. And I'm using, again, my Kokuyo adhesive to put a little label on there. And the next picture that I'm working on do my journaling when I had to drive them up to LAX. I live in San Diego, so it's a long ways. And they had a very early flight. And then they have to check in 3 hours before an international flight. So I did take them early. What I did not take into account is that because I had all of them in the car with me, that I could be in the carpool lane. So we ended up getting there really, really early. And then the bottom right-hand corner of my page, you can see that I have a picture of the sky. I love sky pictures like that. So I'm documenting about saying goodbye to them, and I'm using another pack of the letter stickers. Thank goodness that they went on clearance because I can have more now. Once I finish that, I am going to show you that I am done with the page. This is what the layouts look like, those 2 flat pictures. And the one thing I didn't talk about on here is that while they were packing, they saw some of my Trader Joe's bags and said that those were so popular in Korea and people paid a lot of money for those. So they took all of my dirty Trader Joe bags. I wish they had told me earlier so that I could have purchased them for them, new ones. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.